So, and with how everything has transpired, it really leads us to believe that the source that we do have really does have some good information. And I wanted to jump to this next part of the conversation because it's a fascinating one. If you've been following me on Twitter, please do so. You see it right there at Cody Lack, CODYLAC. Follow me. That's where I've been putting a lot of my news drops when I do put them. But also, I'm a fun to stir the pot. But this is what my source told me this afternoon, and I'm just relating to you all what was related to me. Source, and again, this is from my same source as last time. The Panthers are trying to trade Christian McCaffrey to the Buffalo Bills and Robbie Anderson to the Green Bay Packers. For Christian McCaffrey, Carolina is asking for a second-round pick and running back Devin Singletary. For Robbie Anderson, they want a fourth-round pick and a seventh-round pick. However, Green Bay is only offering a sixth-round pick. Scott figured with that level of compensation and is pushing for more. Both CMC and Robbie must agree to the trades before they can be made final. And again, as I always say, this is up to you whether you believe it or not. I mean, personally, I 100% believe everything that I just read to you all. I'm not necessarily a fan of it because I really do believe that the Panthers, especially if it's the Buffalo Bills, there is a way to finagle a late first-round pick out of Buffalo's hands for an incredible football player that, as of right now, is one of the only reasons why someone would want to be the future head coach of the Carolina Panthers. So I believe he's worth a first-round pick. I'm also in the agreement where I don't even know if we're going to be able to get a fourth-round pick for Robbie Anderson. As much as I would love that, I just don't know with that contract and the level of production. I don't necessarily know that we're going to be able to get that. However, I have no doubt the validity of my source and what they're telling to us. I have no reason to believe that none of this is true. So, Tony, CK, Greg, to everyone in the chat room, what do you think about this? Do you think that the Panthers are going to be able to get more than a second-round pick for Christian McCaffrey? And does any of this make sense to you?
Go ahead, Greg.
I think it all makes sense. It's like I said, I would get rid of everybody except for those 5 defensive players I was talking about. And as much as I love Christian McCaffrey, I mean, you know how I feel about Robbie Anderson, so he can go. And I don't think we'll get a fourth for him. I think just a 6 is too much for Robbie Anderson, but we'll see. As much as I love Christian McCaffrey, I'd love to see him be on a successful team. And through his prime, with us rebuilding, I don't see that happening with us, at least right now. And Buffalo is... Man, you put Christian McCaffrey on Buffalo, I don't think there's anybody that beats him for years, to be truly honest with you. I think they're going to be a dominant team. Good.
Exactly. And that's why you don't get anything less than a 1. And the reason I say that is you get a 2 from Buffalo, it's basically a 3.
Fair point.
Right.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, because at the bottom of the second round. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And again, knowing what kind of player McCaffrey is, knowing what he's able to do as a pass catcher. And like I said before, Christian McCaffrey is one of the most consistent, most valuable pieces of the Panthers offense when he's actually healthy. So if we're going to be bringing in a brand new head coach, one of the biggest selling points about this football team is that you have Christian McCaffrey. If we're going to give away that to a Super Bowl contender, we need a first-round pick. I really hope what I'm hoping is that is willing to come down on the price for Robbie Anderson, get Robbie Anderson out of here, take the 6th-round pick from Green Bay, really address to Brandon Beane, who we have a lot of connections with. Hell, put Dan Morgan on the phone. Let those two talk to one another. Get a first-round pick for Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, you have the most leverage with a team like Buffalo who is that one piece that is missing from their offense is their running game. And the fact that they don't have anybody that is in that running game that's capable of catching out of the backfield and doing the things that Christian does. They don't have a lot of ability to negotiate from the perspective of the value that he's going to bring to their team, and the fact that their value of their first round at this point in time is predicted to be the lowest you can possibly get in the first round, right? So that part I would say is why you ask for a first. And as the season goes on, as we get closer to that trade deadline, our ability to ask for more is getting, especially as these teams are getting to that point where it's like we need to fill this need. I think that we have a lot more negotiating power. I think people would say that's the opposite, especially as if Steve Smith's statements on his podcast are true, where he stated that if he's on this team, he's asking for a trade, we might start to see that exodus, right? And if we do, then our negotiating ability I don't think it falters. I think it only strengthens.
I think that Rare Gamer brought up a good point. Is I would be interested in not only, like, I wouldn't just say first or nothing if you start talking some monetary compensation in there to make it so to alleviate some of the cap burden that we're facing in what could potentially be a rebuild. And to continue off of this is just going back to the Robbie, and actually this would be a good segue to the super chat. Let's go ahead and pull that up.
Our man Jay Thomas with the $4.99 love bomb. Thanks you, Jay. He says, give us a breakdown exactly what's happened to Robbie Anderson. There was so much hype around this guy for the past few years. I'll give you my short answer.
Hold on. I want to get it. Hold on. I've been waiting to talk.
Go ahead.
Y'all been sitting here talking about Christian McCaffrey not getting enough. Is that I think a 6th round for Robbie, it sounds so cheap. It sounds like bargain basement. And here's the thing is that while you guys are saying that the Bills need or could make a run with Christian McCaffrey, it could be dominant, yes. But there's also an argument that they could go down, win the Super Bowl with the squad they got right now, the way they're playing. The Packers are in their last kind of hurrah with Aaron Rodgers, you know what I'm saying? And they have no receivers, none. And Rodgers is throwing it down the field. No one's catching it. No one's getting separation. They are desperate for wide receivers. I'm just saying 6 sounds too cheap. Maybe straight 4th. That would be awesome. Just that, no extra pick. But maybe we're really talking about DJ on that point. So let's go. That's my only qualm here is you guys are sitting here saying that's not enough for Christian McCaffrey. I'm saying, God, that is so cheap for Robbie. But at the same time, you are freeing up a spot and just let Terrace Marshall Jr. come in and see what you got for the rest of the season. So let's talk about Robbie Anderson. And I think it all just goes back to Matt Rule. He's his guy.
I'll say this, and I've been saying this for a while. The long, deep receiver, that go route receiver for the Panthers has been cursed ever since 2016 when Cam Newton got hurt. There has not been a consistent downfield passing attack on the Carolina Panthers, not with DJ Moore, not with Curtis Samuel, and it certainly hasn't been with Robbie Anderson. It's largely been because we didn't have the quarterback to be able to hit those speedsters in stride. And I honestly think that reasons, Jay, why Robbie didn't have the level of success that we were all hoping that he was going to have. And frankly, it's been disappointing. The reason that I disagree with you, Tony, there's been a lot of drops on behalf of Robbie Anderson. But also, you have to consider the contract that they're going to be taking on for him, even though it's another year. And this year and last year, the numbers on Robbie Anderson have not been good. Like, he has not been good in that aspect. And I think they're going to be able to come back to us and say, look, the numbers and what he has done, they just don't justify a 4th round pick. And I kind of have to agree with them.
He's ranked number 75 in wide receivers in the NFL right now by PFF.
And he's paid 27th. He's the 27th highest paid wide receiver in that, which means he's paid higher than 5 number 1 wide receivers on teams.
Yeah, that's absurd, man.
Yeah.
It's just not. Yeah, that's.
You will not believe how much dead money. We should just make Robbie Anderson pick up trash at Bank of America Stadium.
Make him our mascot.
If we
put him
trade
in the
he'll drop it. He'll just drop it, man.
If you trade him, listen to this. If you trade him June 1st, right? So if you trade him this year, like we're talking about, you would have $19 million in dead money this year. You would save $8 million in cap. It also says here, I'm going to just show it to you guys so we can read this together. So I'm not doing this wrong, interpreting this wrong. I went to the trade pre-June. I think that both of these columns have to apply. We're talking $19 million in dead money, so it accelerates all of his bonus to, it accelerates all that. We got to take on all that.
But that's already stuff we're getting hit with this year anyway, right?
Well, no, this is the year we get hit with we save his salary next year.
That's what I mean.
That's what we save. That's what we save his salary next year, and
overplaying mediocre players. Overpaying mediocre players is the freaking Panthers' MO, dude.
And you want to keep the guy who did it.
Robbie Anderson is the Josh Gordon of the offense.
Oh, you're talking about, was that you're saying a Fitterer contract?
That was a Fitterer contract, yeah.
Was that Robbie's?
Yeah. We're moving on. If we
again, that was meant to me. That okay. I know I can't prove this, CK, but to me that wasn't Fitterer. That was Matt Rule signing his Temple guy,
and he even gave him the game ball. Robbie gave him the game. It's like,
I'm a.
I agree. I think Matt Rule had a hand in it, but again, Scott Fitterer.
Okayed it.
Negotiated that contract.
Okay.
That's the negotiated contract Scott Fitterer got. That's your boy.
I know.
And by the way,
there's some shade on Fitterer that people don't like to talk about, CK.
I also, and again, you can say that makes him a weakling and makes him a yes man, and maybe you're right about that. And again, I can't necessarily prove this, but this is just my opinion on things. I am a firm believer that Matt Rule has been the one pulling the trigger on every single quarterback move made outside of Cam Newton. I think David Tepper forced that upon Matt Rule, but I think from Teddy Bridgewater to Sam Darnold to Baker Mayfield, I think all of those three were on Matt Rule, and we already know that all the Temple guys, all the Baylor guys, that was Matt Rule having 100% roster control. And I understand people want to be critical of Fitterer, and I can't really tell you anything that would make you lessen that position. Time will tell, but I can't necessarily on Fitterer for those things when I feel like I know that Matt Rule was the arbiter of all of those decisions.
Right, and I'm willing to give him a year to see how he does without Matt Rule. The problem is his fingerprints are also on the lack of success of this team. And we can blame Rule, but at the same token, we've got to blame Scott Fitterer. They go hand in hand, which is part of why Tony likes the idea of throwing both of them out and starting fresh with a new head coach and a new GM at the same time. Because guess what? That way we don't have to ask that question anymore.
It would be understandable. How about this? Is that if David Tepper comes out after the trade deadline and says we're cleaning house, I don't think any of us would sit here and go, it's completely unnecessary. Right. You would continue to ask those questions. Was it Rule? Was he handcuffed? Could he have been better? All of these different things. But nobody would be sitting here going, oh, he was so flawless and put in such a terrible position that he couldn't get it done. In fact, if anything, there's a real question about, does he have enough backbone? Does he have enough backbone to be the guy you think he is? Because I know it's written into Rule's contract and all of this, but him and Tepper could have strong guard rule if they needed to. So I don't know. Here, let's go to this super chat. First of all, we want to thank you guys all for your support. There's 225 people in the chat room. I want you guys to smash those thumbs up button, be a part of the show. The number's 252-228-5098.